Shalom YouTube, this is your girl Neftali back with another video. Now recently, IUIC uploaded a new video of them in Uganda. Now, I know I'm a bit hard on these fellas, so as much as I criticize their actions, I can also compliment them when they are doing right. However, while I was feeling proud and all the love, they were constantly hitting me with all types of ridiculous rhetoric. But one comment in particular made me feel some type of way. Now, many of us so-called blacks have been brainwashed with a westernized point of view or perspective.
Hold not thy peace, and be not still, O God, for lo, thy enemies make a tumult. So God has enemies as well. The enemies of the Israelites are the enemies of God. Because if you hate the so-called black man, the so-called Hispanic man, and the so-called natives, and those scattered over here in Africa, guess what? You hate the apple of God's eyes. Therefore, you hate God.
It is very ironic that he would say something like that, when it was the so-called Native Americans who actually enslaved the apple of his eye. Now, the 5 civilized tribes actually purchased slaves to work their land. By 1861, the Cherokee Indians in particular enslaved over 10,000 so-called black slaves alone. The Native Americans were estimated to have owned about 1 million slaves as a collective. The Indians often hired other Indian tribes to catch runaway black slaves. Now, under the leadership of Chief John Ross, now before you all start commenting on his appearance, remember, they say you can't judge solely on appearance. Now, he was the principal chief of the Cherokee Nation from 1828 through 1866, serving longer in this position than any other person. He was described as the Moses of his people and owned the most slaves than any Native American. Under his leadership, the Cherokees became wealthy by providing services like kidnapping fugitive slaves. They built their nation with slave labor, crushed slave rebellions, established their own racialized black codes, which barred black slaves and their children from owning property, and also enthusiastically sided with the Confederacy in the Civil War. It is documented that the Cherokees owned slaves for the very same reasons their white neighbors did. They believed they were equal to the whites and superior to blacks, probably because so-called white colonists viewed us so-called blacks as mindless beasts of burden and saw Native Americans as noble savages, unrefined but courageous and fierce. Somewhat similar how to Thomas Jefferson felt. He felt the Native American people to be a noble race who were in body and mind equal to the white man and were endowed with an innate moral sense and a marked capacity for reason. Now, I know what many of you are probably wondering. If the so-called white man viewed the natives as equal, why did they go through the Trail of Tears? Well, the so-called Trail of Tears, or the Indian Removal Act signed in 1830, was actually brought through Congress and voted on through the House of Representatives and Senate. The Native Americans had a chance to fight their removal and had plenty of time to prepare their departure. So much time that they were able to prepare slave ships to put our ancestors on to go to their new land in Oklahoma, to prepare and rebuild their cities. Meanwhile, thousands of our ancestors were making the long trail on foot, carrying their luggage. But no tears shed for them, sadly. Now, if you need a little more information, please research this for yourselves. Now, if this information is not interesting enough, what's also mind-boggling is how this information essentially has not only been removed from our textbooks, but also history altogether. Now, as far as the Europeans go, who these false teachers want to place all of the blame on their shoulders, saying that the white man made them do it, and they solely want to place Obadiah 4 on the Europeans, even though it pertains to the natives of America as well.
He shall put a yoke of iron upon thy neck until he have destroyed thee. The Lord shall bring a nation against thee from far, from the end of the earth, as swift as the eagle flieth, 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 a nation whose tongue thou shalt not understand.
At this point, point, this has nothing to do with the Bible. The word of the Most High no longer matters. It's all about the word of these so-called prophets or elect. This is how religious zealots began to create different doctrines within Christianity. We all have to change the story to fit their narrative. I get it. I understand. You all have created friends, children, and families with these people. However, the Most High warned us about being around these people because he knew they would turn you away from him. And now, instead of being separate, you have now replaced true Israel with another people. And then dare someone to stand against you. They say if you hate the natives, then you hate God. Well, I hate the 200 years of oppression and bondage these people inflicted on my ancestors, the traps and the snares they left to catch my ancestors like animals, cutting off an ear or a foot in exchange for money, the fact that the so-called white man had to make them free our ancestors, the fact that they think we are inferior, keeping reparations and land to this day from our people. And with all this history, you tell us to stop celebrating Thanksgiving for what the so-called white man did to them, but then you overlook and forgive them for what they did to us and our ancestors? It's time for us to call these false teachers out, and Naphtali is gonna get them.
Enemies make a tumult, so God has enemies as well. The enemies of the Israelites are the enemies of God. Because if you hate the so-called Hispanic man and the so-called natives, then guess what? You hate the apple of God's eyes. Therefore, you hate God. Because if you hate the so-called Hispanic man and the so-called natives, therefore you hate God. Because if you hate the so-called Hispanic man and the so-called natives, therefore you hate God.
If your father's of Indian, Mexican descent, and you are an Israelite, whether you hate black people, whether you hate black people,
And if Dad, you're watching this, dude, you know. Yeah. You don't like black people.